So, I am truly honored to stand before you all today as we gather to embark on a fascinating journey through the rich tapestry of Indian heritage and culture, as mentioned in the topic of today's lecture. It is with great pleasure that I welcome each and every one of you to this enlightening lecture, where we will explore the depths of history to unravel the essence of India's diverse and vibrant cultural heritage. India, with its ancient civilization dating back thousands of years, has been a cradle of profound knowledge, art, and spirituality. Today, we have the privilege of delving into the intricacies of this cultural treasure trove, learning from the wisdom of our ancestors and understanding the threads that bind us together as a nation. And I feel that is extremely necessary to build up true youth leaders working for the development of India, hence tending to the goal of Vivekananda Youth Leadership Convention. So for this intellectual journey, I call upon the stage Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. I would also like to call upon the stage Professor Himanshu Yadav to felicitate him. Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai, also fondly known as Chanakya Pillai. Being true to his name, Dr. Pillai, he is an author and a well-known expert on Chanakya and his teachings. He has done his MA in Sanskrit and a PhD in Arthshastra. He is a certified management consultant from International Institute of Management Consultants. Dr. Pillai is the director at SPM Foundation and founder director of Atma Darshan Private Limited and Chanakya Anvikshiki Private Limited. He is also the deputy director of Chanakya International Institute of Leadership Studies. Dr. Pillai has gained prominence for his work in disseminating the principles of Chanakya, the ancient Indian, not only a philosopher, an economist and a strategist. His notable works include books like Corporate Chanakya, where he explores the relevance of Chanakya's teachings in the corporate world, Chanakya's 7 Secrets to Leadership, Chanakya and You, Katha Chanakya, and several more. So now I hand over the mic to Dr. Pillai to enlighten us with our knowledge.
Namaskar. It's an honor to be here at IIT Kanpur, especially when we are using this platform of Vivekananda Summit, because yesterday was Vivekananda's birthday, and I'm sure all of you celebrated him and his teachings, and it should continue. The topic that I'm going to talk about is already written on the board, which is evaluation of Indian heritage and culture through history. The organizers told me कि 20-25 मिनट बात करो, बाद में चर्चा करेंगे. That is better format. Otherwise, one-way lecture is boring. थोड़ा सा सीखा है, थोड़ा सिखाऊंगा, बाद में बातें करेंगे. For the last, I would say 2-3 hours, I was going around our campus and asking some of my fellow students, tell me what is the biggest problem and solution. Don't tell me problem, tell me solution. And what came out was very unique. A lot of problems, I'm sure. But the key problem was individualism. Nothing wrong in that. हमको अपने बारे में सोचना चाहिए, लेकिन सिर्फ अपने बारे में नहीं सोचना चाहिए. And what is the solution? You know what they told me? याद रखो लाइफ में एक प्रिंसिपल है, जो प्रॉब्लम देता है उसी को सोल्यूशन पूछो. And they told me the biggest solution to remove individualism is samvad. Believe me, it's the biggest stress buster. We have Professor Himanshu over here. He's a brain scientist, cognitive scientist, psychologist, all put together. Believe me, human beings require conversation. And without conversation, knowledge cannot be built. Remember one thing, it is not about right and wrong. And believe me, our tradition has accepted something called gossips are good. You interact, and if you actually study Indian culture, it's all about samvad. I'll come to that later on, but let me come to one word which is my favorite, called history. I think most of us are millennials here, right? Yes or no?
We wish to be, sir.
That's interesting. I'm a social scientist, by the way. मेरे गुरु ने मुझे कहा था, before you start studying Arthshastra, start studying Samaj Shastra. It's very interesting that this generation is actually getting interested in history. True or no? to this generation, including the millennials and the generation alpha. You know who is generation alpha? The generation born after 2010 is more interested in history. And let me come to the word history because it's very important in world perspective, not only देश का history, हमारा history, but दुनिया भर में history में research हो रहा है, right? So if you look at the Western understanding of history, I mean there are so many technical definitions, I'll not go into that, but the simplest one I heard is that his story, his history. And actually history is written by those people who are the winners or rulers, right? ऐसा बोलता है, the winners write their history and they don't want to show that, that I'm bad. It happens across the globe. I was discussing with Himanshu sir, in this country, very famous, which is close to Indian culture, Germany, they're removing a lot of part of the history in the mainstream education. Because apna jo, dark side of your history, nobody wants to show. And therefore, this is saying winners only talk about the bright side. And, we have started seeing that in history, a lot of things which is unknown. And that's the interesting part. So let me use the Sanskrit word for history. It is called itihasa. Iti means thus, has means happened. History is not just about imagination. And our history, as it is said, is thousands of years old. We don't even know how many thousands. 5,000, 10,000, somebody said 14,000. Now my professor from Harvard, he was telling me, I think it should be minimum 17,000. He's not sure. Huh? Let's put that numbers aside. But technically speaking, if you study Indology, history in India is traditionally called as two books, Ramayana and Mahabharata. And it's also called the Panchama Veda. So I don't want to go into those part of it, but what I want to talk about is actually some different part of history. There are two histories. One is which is documented and taught in the academic world. जब स्कूल के टेक्स्ट बुक में पढ़ते हैं ना, and all of you know that, that's only one part of history. But actually the YouTube generation is watching history and learning history differently. This happened with me when I studied Chanakya. There's no lessons of Chanakya except for a mention. Chanakya, Chandragupta, that's it, right? But I had to go to a Gurukul after I got married to study Arthshastra, and I found that is a real history of India. So today what I'm going to talk about, not the stories part of it, जो आपको सबको पता है. A lot of stories, and it's good because for a common man, stories are the entry into history and culture and tradition. There are Panchatantra, Hitopadesha, and I'm sure every country has got its own historical stories and documents, culture, tradition, folklore, arts, drama, culture. But there is one history which is very important for the kind of a crowd that is sitting here, the intellectual traditions and history of India. And unfortunately, we mention it, but we don't study it. हमको पता है. And let me tell you, as a researchers and one of the brightest minds of this particular country, let me tell you why Indian history is very important, not only for Indians, but for the world. And I always tell this, India is a very strange country. Its future depends on its past. Its future depends on its past. That doesn't mean you get stuck in the past. Otherwise, as a patriot, as a nationalist, we have this, Bharat sone ki chidiya thi. I like the word thi. We were the richest part of the world. Very good. I like you and I like myself. But are we getting stuck in time? And that's a danger. When you have a glorious history like India, there's a problem also. You get stuck very emotionally. Good. I think patriotism is a great feeling. But I think we have to understand we are actually rational. And we have to understand history from a very intellectual dimension. That's what I'm going to speak for the next 10-15 minutes. Okay, and what I'm going to tell you that India has got a historical contribution in every intellectual field. And the good news is that even though it is not taught in the mainstream education, it is all documented and kept somewhere. I'm sure all of you are Googlers. How many of you heard about National Manuscriptology Mission? One person. Indian history. Two. No, it was started how many years ago?
It was started by Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Ji. Ab socho, it's almost 20-25-year-old project. And for those people who don't know what they did, they started, collecting historical records of our country. In those days, there were no books. It's called Tadapatri. Palm leaves, because this paper and pulp came later on. And with the next 2 generations, even paper will be old. It will be digital, right? Remember one thing, it is not the form of documentation that matters, it is the wisdom that is documented that matters. How does it matter if it is Tadapatri or book? A lot of people debate. I'm an author, by the way. Nobody reads book. They say, don't know, it's okay. Are you watching YouTube? Yes, good. So forms will change. Physical, digital, paper, non-paper, Tadapatri. So during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time, they started a very interesting project called as National Manuscripts. And you know what they did? They first went to libraries of universities. Like us, I had a chance to visit the library. A lot of beautiful publications coming out. And they started actually keeping a record of that. But they found out that that's only a tip of the iceberg. Isn't it true? And you know, if you are making notes and if you are a researcher, these words will help you later on. And while doing this research, they went to some very prominent princely states libraries. Before the Britishers left, India was not a country. It was 550 princely states. True? And when their administrative model was what we call Bombay Presidency, Kolkata Presidency and Madras Presidency. So everybody in South is a Madrasi. But if you study, there were a lot of Raj Gharanas. And they were good leaders, by the way. Raja Ranjit Singh. In Trivandrum, we had Travancore Maharaja, the Shivaji Maharaj, the Empire, Gwalior, all those things. So they took many libraries which were generally maintained by the Raj Gharanas. And one of the very prominent ones is the Mysore Library. I don't know if you heard about it. And that is temple for me because the Arthshastra of Kautilyas is still there. For those people who are interested in Chanakya can go there. 2400 साल पहले carbon dated by the Archaeology Department of India. And in that one library, let me tell you, there are 80,000 manuscripts. One. And of course, there is in Pune, the Oriental Research Institute, Bhandarkar, Oriental Research Institute. It was a part of freedom movement, by the way. You know, the kind of image that we have about freedom movement is political freedom movement. But you know, there are many parallel movements that happened. And one of them was academic intellectual movement. So if you are interested in all that part of Indian history and freedom movement, it's very different. In the universities they started. And Bhandarkar Institute had a major role to play. They collected different versions of Mahabharata from across the world. And they found many versions in India to begin with. You know, that's a different history. But interestingly, what happened is that when they collected all these things, they came to know a Sanskrit word called as, dhyan se sunna or likhna, Jati Puran. How many of you heard about it? When I started doing research in my own university, I'm with University of Mumbai. I'm a director there. So, you know, one of my professor friends was telling me, चाय पे चर्चा में बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिलता है. संवाद. दोस्तों के साथ भी और प्रोफेसर के साथ भी. They was telling me, India's greatest history is documented in Jati Purans. I said, what is Jati Puran? It is called community models documented for prosperity. Jati suna hai? Unfortunately, it's a very negative word called caste. But you'll be surprised, India was a nation of communities. And communities had something called as SOPs. Standard operating process. आप बोले क्या बात कर रहे हो? History of Indian culture, हाँ ये पता भी नहीं है. I started researching. आपको पता है in India traditionally, till now at least, we have community weddings called arranged weddings, marriages. आपको पता है क्यों? Because in the 1st century BC, we did a social experiment. Suppose 2 doctors are there. And if they get married, tell me one thing, the child may get interested in medicine. He may or may not become, that's a different thing. But if he or she decides to become a doctor, is it good? The knowledge continues from one generation to the next and the next and the next, isn't it? And it is said that you actually perfect any knowledge system after 600 years of research. पता है कोई बात? So they had actually put SOPs. And you'll be surprised, the manuscriptology mission started going to families, communities and started collecting. तो बहुत सारे villages में पंडित लोग के पास होता है, पुजारी के पास होता है. Every village has got a grama devta. Everybody has got a kula devta. You'll be surprised. They are documents, historical documents. And they started digitalizing, and today the National Manuscriptology only in India have found more than 1 crore manuscripts. So think about the history and the tradition of intellectual rigor that we have even today for our generation. Again, I don't want to glorify. उसके बाद क्या करना है? Collection is good. उसके बाद क्या? So here is what I want to tell you, that in India we have enough historical non-academic documents which are traditional custom documents, and they are actually very thought-provoking. So I like to maybe use some fields of modern generation which could be useful for you in understanding Indian history and Indian traditional wisdom. So let me say, I was going around the campus. Let's say somebody is a student of aerospace. Okay, can you look at maybe Vivekananda? सुना है, पढ़ा नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं है. Let's say we look at geoinformatics. Pardon the terminology? Can you get insights from astronomy, Bhugol Shastra? Next, let's go into something called as very common medicine. Everybody knows about Ayurveda? Suna hai. Charak Samhita? I found that in the library. Shushruta Samhita? There are many more, by the way. This is only popular one. Then you go into psychology. Patanjali Yoga Sutra? Arey Patanjali Yoga Sutra matlab yoga, and yoga means asanas. Much more. In fact, if you understand the Indian knowledge systems and the traditions, you'll be surprised so much. Yet, please understand, you'll get an input, but don't get stuck in the past. Because with every generation, the evolution word is very important. उस जमाने के जो ह्यूमन बींग्स थे, सोसाइटी था, उसके लिए वो नुस्खा चल गया. But today is different, right? Today, one of the biggest problem is this. So when a psychologist looks at this, it's a tool for communication, but it's also a mental health hazard. So you cannot say, चाणक्य ने बोला था. चाणक्य ने नहीं बोला था. But चाणक्य ने जो बोला था, can we connect it to modern day problems? Otherwise, it's a very dangerous in any society to only appreciate the past. Otherwise, one of my professor friends always tell me, गाड़ी reverse gear पे नहीं चलती. Do you want to go back to Stone Age? Or do you want to go forward and understand where the world is moving? So what I'm saying is, when you study the past, you will be surprised that we will get inputs. And you use it in the modern day. For example, I was in America, and for those people, who traveled or want to travel, there's one place you should go. It's right in the center of New York, called as Grand Central Station. बहुत सारे movies में भी आता है. And I was like wowed by the very grandeur of it. The numbers will astonish you. Grand Central Station, at least the ones I saw, had 133 platforms. That's grand, right? And by the way, 100% underground. किस जमाने की बात कर रहे हो आप? So I wonder, wow, this is like America. So you get glorified by it. And by the way, that country also has its history, only limited to 500 years. But you know what? When I came out, I like to go around and feel the culture. I found a very big board outside. And interestingly, it is government ka board. And it is addressing a social problem. During Corona, you saw a lot of government ads. Wear a mask, vaccination kara lo. And then we had a national project called Pulse Polio. So all these government ads, it was a government ad addressing a very interesting issue. Can you believe? So I was looking at that ad, I still have a photograph. I was saying that, is this what we call development? There's an old lady, pura muh murjhaya, very, very, sad face, and there's a toll-free number. And it says, if you're wanting to talk to somebody, please call up this number. So then I asked some of my friends over there, professor friends. So I was at New York University at that time. So I asked my friend, क्या चल रहा है यहाँ पे? You know what he told me? And this is around 15 years ago. The biggest problem America is facing is called loneliness. True or no? Please understand, India understood the difference between loneliness and being alone. Don't you think you want your own private space? That's what is required for research. If you cannot be alone with yourself, you can't meditate. But you have to be also active in the society. So what is very important? The balance of being alone but not being lonely. And a lot of old people in America don't know whom to talk to. So coming back, all these subjects are covered, read them, understand them, but go forward. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you one input which I've used in my life, the intellectual tradition of political science in India from the historical perspective. My favorite character and the person whom I worked on is Chanakya and Arthshastra. But you'll be surprised, I thought Chanakya was the founder of Arthshastra. No. Chanakya was not the founder of Arthshastra. He was a specialist of Arthashastra. That's it. For example, Einstein. Did he create the science or the theory of relativity? It existed. But the way he presented it, he became the greatest scientist till now. Isn't it true? So Arthashastra is a natural science which existed before Chanakya. And I have to give the history of political science in India before Chanakya. क्या बात कर रहे हो? हाँ. So here is the first opening sutra of Kautilya Arthashastra. He's got a book also. Arthashastra has got 6,000 sutras, but the opening one is very interesting to know the evolution of Arthashastra. Om Namah Shukra Brahaspati Bhyam. So I said, हमारे यहाँ पे we start with some guru, some god before we write a book, right? भगवान का नाम लेके शुरू करते हैं. And here is two gurus of political science, Shukracharya and Brahaspati. And when I went inside, I found there are 14 acharyas of Arthashastra. Not one, which Chanakya mentions. If you research karte, you refer to somebody else, right? There were more than 60,000 professors of Arthashastra before Chanakya. अभी उतना तो मेरे पास time नहीं है, but he takes them and takes 14 major ones. Who are they? Shukracharya was the guru of the demons. Brahaspati the guru of gods. वो दोनों झगड़ा करते हैं. But professors have a seminar together. Think about intellectual tradition. And then Chanakya says, okay. And interestingly, he brings his own viewpoint. इसे कहते हैं, it's a very interesting tradition of debate in India, and that is called samvad. Okay, you have to debate. But you cannot just, it's not gossip. Gossip is okay to some extent. In intellectual tradition, there are three ways in which you debate and discuss it and bring out a theory. One is called Purva Paksha. Second is called Uttara Paksha. Third is called Para Paksha. And fourth is called Mama Paksha. And why it is important? Take any subject, metallurgy. Do you think you are the inventor of metals? No. Technically, it is called Dhatu Shastra. Okay? So there is enough material in India for Dhatu Shastra. Or some people categorize this as in the field of chemistry, Rasayana Shastra. So you have, suppose you want to do something in chemistry or metallurgy. So you are having a modern day problem in 2024, right? But can you go back to history? Are history limited to what happened in Europe? Take that. But they did a lot of work, by the way. We use words like alchemy. ठीक है, वो भी पढ़ो. Go back. You will be surprised that in India, we had a very evolved Dhatu Shastra. And Chanakya was a specialist in metallurgy, by the way. And do you know metallurgy and economics are connected?
Coins.
Absolutely. The Mughals, when they came to India, their specialization was coinage system. The whole economic model changed. So I don't want to get into that part of economy. You'll be surprised. The financial capital of India is Mumbai, where I come from. But do you know one thing? How did Bombay become the economic capital of India? Oh, Britishers came, Kolkata, Bombay. Okay, that's only one part of it. It is a very interesting point that when the Mughals came, they realized something. In Bombay, there is a very interesting place called as Mahim. And Mahim actually had a very interesting economic model by the Nawab at that time. And from there, the Bombay started. They were trading with the Middle East. You know, there's a place called as Haji Ali in Bombay. Just do a Google search after we go Google Map mein jana. We have some friends from Geo Informative also. You'll be surprised if Bombay is here, India is here. Straight one line is Oman. India and Oman has been trading for thousands of years. Actually, Haji Ali was a port. And this Haji Ali was a trader from Oman. who came to India and became a Baba. Trading is a very important part of Indian history. But when you bring in Arthshastra, you can change the system. One of the biggest industrialists today, Reliance. Do you see a connection of metallurgy and Reliance growth? नहीं पता ना, सिर्फ गुरु मूवी देखो, अभिषेक बच्चन ने अच्छा एक्टिंग किया. You know how it started? Coins. I don't want to give the answer because that's not the topic. This is what Indian heritage can offer you, a new perspective. So what will be the subject? Study of the Western, but try to see there is some Indian document recorded somewhere. So coming to Arthshastra, I found Chanakya ne itna padhai kiya tha. He was a good student before he became a good teacher. So he got a history of intellectual ability that's been brought in. And who are the other acharyas? You will be surprised. Narad. Narad. What is the impression about Narad? Narad Muni, Narayana. How many of us know this, that actually he was a political strategist? क्या बात कर रहे हो? So I'll give you a little understanding. So please understand, my lecture is not to convince you. Maybe if you're confused, I'm happy. But your research should start after this. You know, if you study the Puranic model of Narad ji, he is a Vishnu ka bhakta, sab jagah jaake Narayan. One interesting thing is that he always meets rajas. No visa required. Leaders of every particular community, Rakshas ho, Akash ho, Bhumi ho, Patal ho. Isn't it true? And you know this Narad Muni is very, chappal. दो राजाओं में झगड़ा लगा के आते हैं. Politicians क्या करते हैं? And by the way, he doesn't have a personal interest. So there is a complete study of Narad as a political strategy in Indian documents. As another person I'll tell you, you'll be surprised. You know, one of the greatest warfare strategists of our culture or tradition is Bhim. Huh? I'm happy. I'm not talking about Bhishmacharya. Bhim. महाभारत सुना है? क्या सुना है? कौरव और पांडवों की लड़ाई. Mahabharata is a text which has got every subject in the world. वो artificial intelligence है क्या? Robotics है क्या? छोड़ो. Some people create and convince है. अरे छोड़ो. Now let me tell you how Bhim is a political strategist. अच्छा, let's take a simple story which all of us understand. How many Kauravas were there? Abhi there are different. 101 hai. There is a girl also. 100. Let's start with basic 100. Acha, tell me one thing. Who killed 100 out of 100? Only Bhim. कुछ तो strategy होगा ना? How many of us know this? Bhim, Gadadhari Bhim, Duryodhan ka dushman. Duryodhan was the last one. It's like Mahendra Singh Dhoni hitting the chakka and World Cup winning chakka. But what about the other runs that you made before that? Think about this, that Bhim had the strategy of killing 100 out of 100 single-handedly. कुछ तो strategy होगा? It's like saying, 10 out of 10 wickets निकाल in cricket. कुछ तो होगा ना? He was a teacher, by the way. Huh? So why am I telling you, friends? Indian history is full of intellectual rigor. In fact, in Malayalam literature, any Malayalis here, you'll be surprised. There's a very famous book. I don't remember the name of the book. The whole Mahabharata written as Bhim as the hero, not Krishna or anybody else. It makes sense, isn't it true? My friend Anand Nilkatan has written another book called Ajaya. Duryodhana as a hero. But how many of you thought that Bhim is the actual hero of Mahabharata war? Warfare ke standpoint, you say, makes sense? Logical? Now imagine somebody who has done so much, you go and say, can you teach me warfare? Would you like to learn? We have a tradition. So this is what Chanakya did. Bhim, Narad, and so many, of course. There are 14 others. I'll not go into that. There are so many traditions. And I'm only talking about Chanakya's before time. And there are so many books I've written on that. I don't want to get into that. But I want to just stop over here to tell you that if you're really interested in this particular topic, evolution of Indian heritage and culture through history, 3 things you should do. Number 1, I'll use Sanskrit words here. Abhyas. Please study these books. And there's enough in this world to go to Google. Google search may not be research, but Google search is a starting point of research. True or no? So let me tell you that please study all these sites which are easily available. There's enough material now digitalized. You don't have to go out also. तो सब देखो, और आजकल बहुत सारे OTT platforms में आ रहे हैं. Take that cue and connect it to our generation problems. So abhyas is very important. Second point which we will do now is samvad with that. We do that informally. Chai pe charcha, isn't it? Cafe, coffee day में करते हो ना? Let me tell you, it is not about ideation. It is not brainstorming. It's actually understanding a different viewpoint. Can you create awareness कि ये हमारे पास है, आपके पास है, चलो. In fact, when you grow higher, global debates are important for humanity. And in my book, Chanakya, you have written, what is the quality of debate? By the way, quality of debate is also codified in our books. कैसे debate करना है? We don't even know the difference between debate and discussion. वाद में संवाद का फर्क क्या है? I don't want to go because that's a different topic altogether. But the point here is that do you understand? Including me, do we understand there's so much rich heritage of how to debate and discuss? So in my book, Chanakya, you have written, I may not agree with you, but I will not take away your freedom to disagree with me. यहाँ पे क्या होता है? My stand. अरे stand. So there can be different stands and the reality could be different. So it's very important to have an open mind, including a Westerner's perspective. Huh? The first thing is abhyas, second is samvad, and the third, and that is my favorite, a word that comes in Arthshastra, anvikshiki. Suna hai? Kitne logon ne suna hai? It's a word we have forgotten. Forgetting books. Anvikshiki is the prathama vidya that is taught to every child in the Gurukul. Intellectual tradition of India. Anvikshiki का मतलब है कैसे सोचना, अन्वेक्षण, research. In the government of India we have CBI. Full form क्या है? Central Bureau of. If you translate that into Sanskrit or basic Hindi, क्या है? केंद्रीय अन्वेक्षण Bureau. Investigation. Are you able to investigate logically and find a solution? So I want to tell you that yes, there are a lot of histories, but we have an intellectual tradition that's documented, and let me tell you, it's very interesting. Vad, samvad, if you look at grammar rules, if you look at yoga shastras, linguistics, there's so many topics. I don't want to get into that, but my only suggestion is that when you are going to the past of India, don't get stuck in the past of India. Otherwise, that's a problem. You never know when you're becoming a fanatic from the sense of pride of being an Indian. That's why I love Swami Vivekananda. He went to West, he took the best from there also, right? And he taught the West what is the best in India also. So I think we should all be prepared for global leadership. Because कहाँ पे किसका destiny है, वैसे आप लोग का तो 90% हो गया बाहर का. As they say, it's a bizarre to go outside. But are you going as a cultural ambassador of this country? Or you're just going there to find some economic models? So it's enough. And I like to stop here with a very famous quote of Swami Chinmaya. He says, what you have is his gift to you. And what you do with what you have is your gift to him. So all our rishis, they've done enough work in their generation. बहुत सारे darshanas, philosophy. Hey, documented. If you do research, you will find it. I found many in our library also. But that's their gift to you. Knowledge being documented, given. What you have is their gift to you. But what you do with what you have is your gift to them. So let's contribute back to our ancestors who left so much legacy on intellectual traditions. Thank you. संवाद करें, चर्चा करें. Please, if there are any questions or viewpoints, more than happy to answer.
Elaborate on how Bhima was the prime strategist in Mahabharata. I read the shortened Amar Chitra Katha version of it, as all of us might have, and there was absolutely no such mention of it.
So I also started with Amar Chitra Katha. Who was the founder of Amar Chitra Katha?
I am not aware.
Anantapai. So I'll tell you, Amar Chitra Katha is a very important document of Indian history now. I know the founders also. Of course, Anantapai is no more. In fact, Preeti Vyas, if you don't know about her, she is now the person who is running Amar Chitra Katha. And they found something interesting. For us, that was the first entry into a parallel Indian history. Isn't it true? Beyond the textbooks in school. So there's so many Amar Chitra Katha stories. When I was small, of course, I had a meeting with Anant Bhai, the founder. You know what he told? There's so many things in Amar Chitra Katha that you can debate on. But that was not my objective. My objective is to bring out to the man that there is a character like that. Isn't it true? So I don't know to go into Amar Chitra Katha because then you get into debates. But I'll tell you about Bhim as a strategist. If that is the interesting part. As Amar Chitra Katha, maybe you can find a lot of flaws. And by the way, Amar Chitra Katha is a great document for that generation. And it's important. I think every house has it. At least a few copies. Now let me tell you about Bhim. Let me ask you a few questions first. Who was the guru of Bhim? This is how intellectually you start understanding a person. See, all the Pandavas and Kauravas had common gurus. They were cousins, right? Raj Gharana, royal. Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Bhishmacharya, Acharya Padvi inke. Barabar? So they had a Gurukul with Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Bhishmacharya. That's like common. But when you go higher, you start specializing. Isn't it true? Anybody PhD scholar here? Yeah. So how many people in your class in PhD? Question itself is wrong. True or no? A lot of my students come to me, sir, PhD ka class kabhi hai. Arey bhaiya. It is not a class. Of course, we can have some, standard research methodology class and all. But tell me one thing, is PhD about one guru? It is only about one guru. Specialized guru of that subject. Isn't it true? So what was Bhim's specialization? So the specialist guru was? So Bhim's specialization was Gada Yuddha. Now let me tell you, if you understand Bhim, Panch Pandav hai? What's his number? He's not number one. Pehla number kaun hai? Okay, always confused. Number 2? Number 3? Number 4? Number 5? What is the contribution of Sahadev and Nakul? Padhai karo. By the way, they are strategists now. And many people don't know they were astrologers. Huh? Astrology and warfare, is it connected? How? वो तो महाभारत के आज भी connected because astrology and astronomy tells you the seasons. आज भी आर्मी में पंडित लोग को ऑफिशियल पेरोल पे रखते हैं. I don't know if you've seen that movie Sam Manekshaw wala. Many people don't know it is the greatest war ever in the history of mankind. Documented history. 18 days में महाभारत इतना टाइम में हमने जीता है और एक कंट्री को 2 में बांटा है. It was because when Indira Gandhi was a prime minister, she called him and saying that this problem is there. He said, wait, it's not the right season. Do you want to do the mistake that your father did, Indochina? He said, wait. And he attacked after 3 months when the season was right. Strategy. Coming back. Bhim was a specialist in Gada Yuddha. But you know what his study was? He was excellent in understanding which works for whom. For example, if you understand Bhim's killing, because we don't see all that in detail, there may be books I have not come across. The last person was, 90 run ko kaise mara? Everybody is different. So for example, you are a batsman, but every bowler is different, every ball is different, but you still have to perform. Situations change. That's why in my books I always write about strategy. If strategy is repeated, it is not strategy. What works for one person doesn't work. So Bhim had an absolutely brilliant intellect to understand. ये जो है ना टिंग मार दो ये मर जाएगा. इसको यहाँ पे मारो मरेगा. It is not about Gada Yuddha. It's about Gada Yuddha as a skill, but which works for whom? What can be done with a needle may not be done with a sword. So Bhim had that understanding of what is called as, weaponry. So Gada was his primary weapon. Okay, now I'll tell you how strategy is not about individual. It's a collective brainstorming. Boardrooms में क्या होता है? बोर्ड ऑफ स्टडीज में एनी प्रोफेसर यो BOS एकेडमिक काउंसिल में क्या होता है? आई एम टेलिंग यू बिकॉज आई गेट इन्वॉल्व, यू नो पीपल गिव इनपुट्स, इजंट इट ट्रू? और आप लोग जो सीखते हो हम लोग डिसाइड करके आते हैं. Now let me tell you, let's go back to the Bhim's ultimate person. By the way, let me tell you, in warfare, you require the guidance of a mentor. You may be the best. Still you require inputs from a mentor. Isn't it true? For example, Arjuna, the most skilled Dhanurdhari of that generation, Dharma Sankat aa gaya. Kya kare? Krishna. Now on Duryodhan side, the Kaurava side, the number one is Duryodhan. उसका mentor कौन है? सेम पर्सन. की गुरु कौन है? द्रोणाचार्य तो उस तरफ है, बट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट गदा का. बलराम कहाँ थे? Why?
Because he didn't want to go against Krishna.
Krishna sent him. Do you know this? He was sent on a tirtha yatra by Krishna. दोनों भाई है ना. So if you have, and by the way, if Balram was there, surprisingly, Pandavas wouldn't have won the war. So one of the flaws, I would say, that the Kauravas had is that number one Raja का mentor नहीं था. He comes at the last moment. You know that? He comes. By that time, it's almost like last over पे आ गए. And you know one thing very interesting, he had a very lot of good skills. I'm not here to appreciate Duryodhana. He could go inside the water and sit there. You seen that scene? And when he dies also, finally chalo ho gaya. And his mentor was very unhappy. You know, his mentor was very unhappy. He tells Krishna, तूने मुझे उल्लू बनाया. But what to do with dharma, all those logic and all debate discussion. But you know what he says when he dies? Please study Mahabharata. I've been fortunate to study all the 1 lakh shlokas of Mahabharata. You know, he says out of pride, I don't know pride hai ki arrogance hai, this is the kind of a death that everybody should have like me. Huh? मेरे जैसा मौत सबको नहीं मिलता. मेरे गुरु के आगे मैं मर रहा हूं. Okay, I'm not dying because of old age. I'm dying young. I'm dying a king. I'm dying without a disease. अभी उसमें भी arrogance है. He did not give up even when he died. Because you know he got the energy of his guru. Unfortunately, last ball में 25 रन बनाना है, क्या करें? Coming back, please understand, Bhim had that understanding along with others. So Bhim के जो नीतिस है, नारद के जो नीतिस है, maybe it's different books, it could be there. So what I'm trying to study that Chanakya starts before the political traditions and strategies which he documents here. But he doesn't accept many. Huh? Let me tell you, it is called Parapaksha. I think opposite. And I have a Mama Paksha. I believe in this. So you listen to the previous guys, you listen to somebody's opposite. But you should also have your viewpoint. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for everything. So at the end of all this discussion, do you have a takeaway? Do you have an actionable call for action? Otherwise, you know, क्या बोलते हैं, क्या थोड़ा entertainment के लिए all this is good, huh? And you say intellectual entertainment here. But do you think you have found a solution to all these problems? Therefore, the third word is very important, and my suggestion is please study this in detail if possible. Anvikshiki, very important quality for a researcher, a thinker, a strategist, and a leader. Thank you. Yeah.
We are talking about intellectual traditions in India. What was the key element of building a tradition, an intellectual tradition? If you want to build in new fields,
Yeah.
different engineering branches are. So what would be the key element, core element of that?
Okay.
How to build that?
Very interesting. I'll talk about India. There are a lot of intellectual traditions across the world, and we should respect everyone. मैं इंडिया की बात करता हूँ. First things first, when you are building a tradition, you should have basics or foundation of spirituality. Intellectually, you know, we never know when we can develop the subtle ego. True or no? इसलिए spiritual base बहुत जरूरी है. उसके बाद क्या? उसके बाद there are lot of process. You know, you have to study under a guru of that field. I can go to a history teacher with a maths problem because he studied the traditions of the past, isn't it? And I can't discuss and debate with books. I can study books, but I require somebody who's more matured and experienced than me in that field. So intellectual tradition is built with studying under somebody. इसलिए हम लोग बोलते हैं ना गुरु के पास जाते हैं, गुरुकुल में जाते हैं. Third thing which a good guru will always help you is to debate and discuss. And यहाँ पे तो one way communication. Mama vakya brahma vakya. अरे what the teacher says is ultimate. Who told you that? But just opposing a teacher is not enough. What's your logical contribution to it? And if you're logically contributing, believe me, the guru will accept you as a shishya. You know, in Adi Shankaracharya's life, this situation comes. And there's a debate between a very great scholar, Adi Shankaracharya, Mandir Mishra ji. He was a great scholar. Adi Shankaracharya, kal ka bachcha. Advait ke upar discuss karte, he says, if I lose this debate, I'll become a shishya. It happened. So coming back, traditions are not just accepting what is the past. Traditions saying it may not be relevant. And I'll tell you, your generation has got the opportunity to understand the past, but not necessarily accept everything about the past. In fact, again quoting Swami Chinmaya, he says, how are traditions are built? So every generation has got two responsibilities. Tradition is the continuity of knowledge, right? Two responsibilities every generation. To carry forward what is good of the past and discontinue what is not required. हमारे देश में it is not relevant. Discontinue. So can you debate and say this is not required? Otherwise you will not just continue a tradition, you will destroy a tradition. A lot of places I go there, they say, हमारे यहाँ पे ऐसे ही चलता है. I'll give a simple example. Have you heard about a place called Ralegaon Siddhi? What is it known for? Anna Hazare. So I had a meeting with him just 2 weeks ago. I met Anna Hazare, and then there's a small, every village has got what is called as the Grama Devata. It's like the traditional village temple. All our villages were economic models coming from a temple. Right, so I went to the temple. So I was there, my wife was there, one of my students was there, his wife was there. Immediately a boy comes, young boy, he's the chief pujari. Pujari ka beta hai. He may be, around 10-15 years old. And as 4 of us entered, girls are not allowed. ठीक है, culture है, tradition है, custom है. अंदर हम 2 गए, बाहर आए, and these girls were standing outside. And the girls accepted. क्या करे? Then I said, wait. It's okay not to enter and you accepted it. I asked the pujari, the young boy, saying that why is it not allowed? पता नहीं. पापा ने बोले क्या? And is it logical? I'll tell you, if you go to your own houses, you'll be surprised. Women feel guilty about going to a temple during the monthly cycles. At what point are you going to stop? I'm not telling you, and spirituality is beyond the body anyways, isn't it? So coming back, so how does tradition continue? Number one, please debate and discuss. And it's very important that you study under a scholar, but the scholar should not be a person who says this is only right. And last point about continuity of tradition, please document it for the next generation. देखो, जब एक थियरी बाहर आती है ना, इसमें बहुत सारा मेहनत जाता है. It's a very intellectual hard work to bring out a siddhanta. Isn't it true? But if you don't document it, it's lost. Like what I always do, I have some understanding of Chanakya. I have written 22 books. So a lot of people ask me, why do you write books? मतलब मैं तो नहीं रहूँगा, पता नहीं कब चला जाएगा, but books रहेंगे. Maybe that's an input for your research. I'm not telling you should agree with everything that I've written. And therefore, it's very important in knowledge traditions in India, there is something called as darshanas. Have you heard about it? What are the Shat darshanas? Yes, Sankhya Yoga, Vaisheshika Nyaya, Uttar Mimamsa and Purva Mimamsa. Vedant bhi bolte hain. But do you know one thing? 3 more got added. Jainism, Buddhism and Lokayata or Charvaka. You know what Charvakas? They don't believe in all this. Hey. Absolutely. Can you believe we debate and discuss? They are right. How many from metro cities here? Okay, I'll tell you something interesting. Anybody from Bombay? Suppose you are from Bombay, want to have a house in Bombay. पैसा है? Unless you are a बड़े बाप का बेटा. 90% of the houses in Bombay are on EMIs. Charvaka. Does it work? No. वो tradition कहता है क्या जितना चद्दर क्या पैर है उतना चद्दर फैलाओ, सॉरी कितना चद्दर है उतना आई डोंट so there is something called as capital requirement, true or no? But you can't say save and then you can, by the time you become 70 तब घर लेके करना क्या है? So tell me logically, if you get a capital investment now, a loan now, and you can pay it little over the next 20 years, or save now and have the fun after 20 years, which is better? I don't know, please understand, this is debate. 2 करोड़ का घर लेना है बॉम्बे में, lot of people tell us, अरे 2 करोड़ में तो mansion मिलेगा if you go to tier 2 city, right? But I want in Bombay only, that's my decision, fair. I don't have capital, what do I do? But if a bank is coming to me, phone आता है, loan चाहिए? तो मैंने नहीं चाहिए. My father told me that you never take a loan.
Save, take loan, invest, pay loan.
Right or wrong? That's tradition ahead. Now let me put it in the new generation, I would say what is called startup culture. When I started my first company in the year 2000, almost 24 years ago, कुछ पैसा नहीं था. और वो ज़माने का typical business atmosphere, nobody used to invest in India. Y2K era याद है आपको? Year 2000. India's IT boom started from there. But at that time, we never understood the meaning of capital. थोड़ा थोड़ा करो, trading mentality. It is not a business mentality. Today, every startup is talking about investor. Good or bad? But you will be surprised if you debate with a person from previous generation, they will not accept it. I know how many families where investors come, they say, नहीं बेटा, हमको किसी का पैसा नहीं चाहिए. Tell me what tradition are you talking about? Are you going to lose your 20 years to build a business or start a business now and enjoy for 20 years? मैंने तो दोनों में करना पड़ता है. So tradition में continuity में it's very important that you arrive at a logical conclusion, and if you don't conclude, it's fine. Let the debate continue. So all these darshanas sometimes takes 500, 600 years. It's not about you. It's about continuity of thought. Next. Yeah. We have 2 more questions here.
Sir, can you please elaborate more on VYLC’24?
Yeah. Again, I have not studied it. That's my area. नहीं आपका है मुझे पता है. I'll tell you.
And one more thing, sir. I want to start now. So I'm very weak at reading books. So I cannot sit and read. So
I'll answer one at a time. VYLC’24. कितने लोगों को इंटरेस्ट है? Have you heard about Vimanas in the Puranas? Mention सुना है? Logical, illogical छोड़ दो. कहाँ सुना है? पुष्प का विमान. ठीक है? Now.
So, sir, if some people believe they are just
Mythology.
So even that, how they can think there could be a flying vehicle?
Okay. Remember one thing, whether it was there or no, I don't know.
Yeah.
Was there a possibility? पंछी को देखते हो? So there could have been a possibility. Now the good part is that VYLC’24 is a documented Shastra. है पुस्तक. It's not just like Arthshastra is a full process. And interestingly, I don't know, I have found a video. American scientists are building a prototype on that. But unfortunately यही होता है ना, यहाँ पे हम बात करते हैं, डिबेट होगा नहीं होगा, छोड़ो यार ये सब. अपने ट्रेडिशन की बातें करते हैं, glorifying our culture. वो रिसर्च करते हैं. If you find one sutra, research on it. Now coming back to the second point, VYLC’24 है. Google it. If you want any reference with sutra numbers, I can give you. मेरे लाइब्रेरी में बहुत पढ़ा है. But I'm not a specialist, so I can't debate technically. But I know research is happening on that. I think in some country in Europe, they have funded it also. But I can give you references. But don't put it on the wall and glorify. Huh? It is not a YouTube video to be made. Please create a prototype and fly it. There's a movie also on that. कुछ Wright brothers के पहले हमने again छोड़ो यार. Can you do it? I have studied Chanakya, applied it, and it works. If it doesn't work, छोड़ दो यार. I'll come to the second point. This generation doesn't read. True or no? It's okay. Don't feel guilty. Do you watch videos?
yes.
Good. It's finally knowledge, right? So if you can still read, great. And by the way, don't worry, books will not go out of fashion so fast. But books are going to migrate to videos now. True or no? So at least you can do your basic research with videos also. But the traditional documentation is in books. That's the point. Whether the book is physical or digital is a different thing. All publishing companies, you know what they're doing? They are bringing out 2 simultaneous editions of the same book. It's called e-versions. So I'll give you an example. This is my 22nd book, Chanakya's 100 Best Sutras. And I'll tell you a secret because I'm an author. पीछे हमेशा देखना कोई भी नया book, especially after the year 2010. There is a symbol called E. You know what does it mean? This book is available in digital version also, Kindle version also. So suppose I have to give it to sir now, which I'm going to give it by the way. तो हिमांशु सर को दे दूंगा, physical copy दिया, but I want to give it to some person in US. I can courier it. 4 दिन के बाद immediately I can send him a link and download it. Coming back, if you are able to read books, great, because book में बहुत knowledge है. And if you don't have the time, it's not about time, it's about attention span. You don't have attention span to sit down and read a long book. So I'll tell you a secret. Today there are a lot of apps and websites where the service is to give synopsis of books. In the management field, it's called executive summary. पूरा book पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है 400 पेज. And those professors like me, they expand one idea into 25 pages. अरे 100 बात की एक बात बोलो, right? So if you can't read books, you should know how to take the gist of the books. So there are a lot of synopses available. By the way, how many of you heard about V-books? E-books नहीं बोला, video books. Audio books is listening. You know what is video books? My students is doing a lot of things. So एक chapter पढ़ के उसका gist. The whole video is for 5 minutes. But chapter by chapter will tell you the essence, good or bad. So there are video books as a platform. I still prefer in my generation to read a physical book, but I know it's time consuming. And the attention is very less. And especially the fonts may not be good. So I'm saying whatever be the format, don't feel guilty. Keep the knowledge alive. Thank you. Yeah, we had a question.
We have a limit time.
Okay.
The history of India, they talk about Indus Valley civilization. So in that, I have read in my history that it rose cut at 90 degrees. And when I read it, it said that the reason why it got destroyed is not known. So do you have any idea like why it got destroyed and it's not known?
See, there's a saying about history. What happened that time? It is something that has come to me by some reference, some tradition, right? But I don't know what is happening in the next classroom right now. How can I actually tell exactly what happened 2000 years ago in that place? सब कहीं सुनी बातें या तो लिखी पढ़ी बातें हैं. Facts तो पता नहीं है, but there are a lot of theories to this. Some people say there was a big cyclone or something like that where the whole Indus Valley civilization got wiped out. A big tsunami, कुछ तो था पता नहीं. But I'll tell you, because I'm a student of history, have you gone to Run of Kutch? Heard about Run of Kutch? Okay, वहाँ पे, you know what is the run means what? What is a run? He's from Kutch, I know that. Run means desert. But if you go to Kutch, which our current government, Modi ji is promoting, Amitabh Bachchan is a brand ambassador. क्या गुजरात ने देखा तो क्या देखा, कच्छ ने देखा तो क्या, अभी रन ऑफ कच्छ भी कुछ हो रहा है. You'll be surprised, it's completely white in color. Are you aware of it? Desert white in color. Desert has to be sand, right? There is no sand. You know what is it? Salt. Actually, the whole sea. And by the way, I have gone to Kutch side. From there, you can see Pakistan. And from Pakistan side, you can see this. There's a movie on this also called Run. Ab dekh lo. Very dramatic movie. But Abhishek Bachchan's first movie was based on this. Refugee, yaad hai aapko movie? Kareena Kapoor and Abhishek Bachchan. He crosses from that place. Coming back, Indus Valley civilization got wiped out for many reasons. One of them, in today's modern terminology, could have been climate change. But I don't know. But the good part is that Indus Valley civilization is common between India and undivided India called Pakistan today. By the way, there's a lot of claim also on that. We claim, they also claim. It's a very prosperous part. And today archaeologists are able to find out a lot of things. So Judaro. Then we have the other city also, right? Harappa. All this is just tip of the iceberg. It's a civilization. It's not a city. फर्क समझ रहे हो?
Were we sure that it got wiped out?
I'm not sure. And that's not my question. See, देखो याद रखना, there's something called as problem statement. So maybe your question is that कि कैसे मारा? मेरा प्रश्न है ही नहीं. मेरा प्रश्न क्या है कि अगर उतना एडवांस था, they had lot of civilizations, epitome it is called. Can we use some of them for today? And by the way, my research in this particular Indus Valley civilization is town planning. They had toilets, they had drainage systems. अबे स्वच्छ भारत अभी शुरू है. Correct? So what I'm trying to tell is that for me that's not my question, but if you're really serious about it, I can connect you to an archaeologist, and especially from the Archaeology Survey of India. They're doing a lot of work, but that's also a political debate, by the way. I don't know if you're into geopolitics. If somebody is, let me tell you, there's a lot of water debate between this Indus Valley, between India and Pakistan. And especially there is a lot of cultural issue with the Sindhi community. The Sindh, Indus Valley is Sindhi. It is undivided India, but today major part of that is in Pakistan. So what I'm saying, there's a lot of cultural issues, but coming back, how did it wind up? See, let me tell you, every city has got a time, isn't it? Civilizations keep moving. Migrating is a natural law. And I'll tell you, because since you asked this history, which were the three prominent cities of India till the Britishers came in? आज भी है. कोलकाता बाद में बना. By the way, anybody from Orissa? Let tell you, कोलकाता तो हमारा बच्चा है. रसगुल्ला वाला डिबेट पता है आपको? So, by the way, Kolkata is a new city in human race and especially Indian civilization. Three oldest cities of India. Kashi, Varanasi, Modi ji promote karte. Patna, third one. I'm talking about current India, not undivided India. You'll not even know about this particular city. So you're talking about the 12 Jyotirling. No. हमको नाम भी पता नहीं है कि third oldest city in India is still there. We don't even know in the map. Varanasi is correct. Patna is correct. Patna was the intellectual capital of India. Chanakya came from there. Mahavir, Buddha. But there's one city we have forgotten. I'll tell you the name. And you'll be surprised. Rajamundry. क्या बात कर रहे हो? How many of you have heard about this place? Who is there? Abhi. Do you know it was a trading capital? It is so rich. I went there just recently. Used to export to Burma. Rajamundry को पता नहीं. तो वाराणसी, okay. Patna, yes. South में भी कुछ होना चाहिए ना. You will be surprised. So we know what kind of history are we talking about that generation. I would be more interested in today's Rajamundry. And by the way, it's very rich, fertile rich. It's one place which has got two rivers, Krishna and Godavari simultaneously. Isn't it? अच्छा tax collection देखना कितना. Very rich, by the way. अच्छा वहाँ पे, for all those people who are not from South India, the so-called Stridhan, which has been negatively promoted as dowry. You know, Stridhan जब शादी होती है, उस part of India में kilos में gold देते हैं. शादी हो रही है. कहने का मतलब क्या है? This is also tradition, isn't it? And Britishers started actually from Rajamundry. And I'll tell you something more about Rajamundry and the other place called Kakinada. सुना है काकीनाडा सुना है कि वो भी नहीं सुना है? Please understand, Delhi, Bombay and Kolkata is not India. And foreigners come only to Jaipur, Delhi, Agra. This is not India. You'll be surprised. Kakinada का specialty आपको पता है क्या? You'll be surprised. You know, it's a duplication of Madras city. Kakinada, Rajamundry से 60 किलोमीटर. आंध्र प्रदेश. But हम लोग किस हिस्ट्री की बात कर रहे हैं? I mean, go back to history. But do we study the modern realities? There's one MG road in Bombay. There are many MG roads in India, right? Everywhere. But there's one MG road in Cochin. Anybody from Kerala here? Okay, if you get a chance, please go there. MG Road in Kerala, you'll be surprised. Historically and presently is the richest road in India. Huh? You have to go there to understand the value of it. You know, all the trading that happened in Kerala was from Cochin. Traditionally, it was known as Malabar, Cochin district and all that. Aaj bhi aap jaoge, you'll be surprised there are foreign trading happening today. But that's not the point. You'll be surprised in Cochin MG Road, we have the largest gold showrooms in the world. आपने सुना है केरला के सारे गोल्ड ब्रांड्स भीमा जॉय अलुकास अच्छा जॉयस आई डोंट नो ऑल दोस थिंग्स एमजी रोड पे एक ही स्ट्रीट में ऑल दिस गोल्ड शोरूम्स आर मिनिमम 3 to 5 floors. So yes, I'm interested in that history, but I'm also interested in current reality. Rajamundari is your research. Thank you. Before I wind up, I request sir to kindly take this book from my side because मुझे भी gift देने को अच्छा लगता है. Indian tradition. Take a gift, give a gift.
Brighter future. As we express our gratitude, let us also carry forward the spirit of learning, being inspired from the past, being inspired from the intellectual history of India, and appreciate the feeling that this lecture has instilled in us. Dr. Pillai's teachings have not just enriched our minds, they have also sown the seeds for continued exploration of our cultural heritage. Now, I feel that most of us will go to our hostels and search about all of the things that you made us know. So once again, thank you, Dr. Pillai, for your enlightening lecture. To the audience, thank you for your active participation and enthusiasm. Let us depart from this hall with hearts full of knowledge and a deepened connection to our own Indian heritage. Thank you.